Hmm. All right, what's up, guys? I'm gonna give everybody just a couple more minutes to join because we're just hitting 7 o'clock. So I'll give everybody like a couple more minutes and then we'll go from here. Gosh. All right, guys, let's get started here. Move back over to the indexes. Okay, so first things first, check out the indexes. So as you can see here, we have basically what's happened is we have created a new, well, we've reached a high, right? So what we need to see now is what we're going to end up doing from here. And if you look at the lower time frames, so you can see here the SPY is currently trading in a range, right? So I was pretty reluctant to trade the past tail end of the week just because you can see here SPY has been very choppy. We've been stuck between this range of like 488.50 area to around that 485.50 area. So I mean, what is it? $3 range. So I haven't really been looking to try to trade this too much, right? I've just been kind of waiting to see what we end up doing outside of this breakout or this range. So right now, really, it's like you go to lower time frames, and what you're kind of going to do is You look for the upper part of that range, the move to the upper part of the range, and you look for kind of failures around that area. So I mean here, and a kind of a common sell signal is when a bar makes a high, you look for it to break that high and then or break the candle that made that high. So to make that a little more simple. So see this candle, it made a high. And then so here's the low of that candle. Once that candle has a sell or a close below, a candle has a close below that, it's typically a sell signal. So this would be a sell signal right here. You can see we had a small pullback and then ultimately had that drop. So this is we're just trading within a range. So there's two things you can do. You can either sit and wait and then make a decision based on what you see kind of later on, and wait for the range break. So a break above this high area here or a break below this area here. So you can wait on those kind of two things, right? Um, Other than that, you just trade within the range, right? You look for moves that um, are kind of on that higher end, and then you look for breakdowns at that higher range. And then once you get stopped out, then you know that we're probably going to be continued in the direction you got stopped out at. So that's that. QQQ has been a little more revealing in terms of how we can uh, trade the coming days, right? You can see here, the thing that's going to be number one always is going to be the trend. Um, and you can see this trend very clearly here. So you made this high, and basically we've been downtrending this entire time, right? So now we've kind of tried to put in a double bottom here, but I'm thinking that we will ultimately we could break down here. So here's the thing. If we hold here where we're at, this low, or even hold just this general area right here, within this like 421 area above there, we have a good chance of pushing higher because this does look like a consolidation that could turn into being just a bull flag, um, or a falling wedge, whatever you want to call it. So this could turn into a breakout to the upside, and we go test 430, right around here. First target is always the top of the pattern, but I mean 430 is right there, maybe a few cents higher. So that would be kind of the first idea. Um, so that's that. We go look at the higher time frames. I'm slightly leaning bearish only because not overall like we're gonna dump, right? But I'm kind of leaning towards the idea we may continue down some. And reason being is because if you look at the daily time frame, and we talked about those sell signals, right? So the candle that made a high was right here. So the high was put in right here. Might be easier if I remove these. The candle made a high here. And then ultimately this candle did not make a high. And then from there, what ended up happening was we had a close below the low of this candle here. Typically, that is a sell signal. So, I mean, if you look at other um, previous times, I guess you would say, history, you can see here's a high. This candle made a high, and then we had a close below that, and then we broke down and pulled back. Now, you can just as easily say, okay, look here, here's a time when this candle, well, this candle really made a high, so that wouldn't be an example. So let's see if I can find another good example for you. There's the low. Yeah, we never got a close below that low right there. So, nope. Okay, here you go. So here's a candle that made a high, right? The high is made. We pulled back, had a close below that low right there, and then we had a few points pull back. Now, same thing goes for the other way. You can see here this candle made a low. We closed above it, above the high, of this bar. And then basically we closed above it, and that turned into our reversal where we saw us reverse to the upside. Okay. So those are just a few examples that have happened in recent history. Here's a candle that made a low. Here's the candle that broke the high of the low bar. That's really what it's called. So when it's a bullish reversal, it is a candle close, the high of the low bar. It's a lot easier if I'm just explaining it and you understand the concept. So this candle made a low. Here's the high of that candle. We broke that. That's a bullish reversal. And as you can see, that's kind of what ended up happening. And then you can see here, we closed below. We made a high here on this candle. Which candle made the high? 1120, 1125. Okay, so you can see here, we made a low here, we closed below there, and that ended up being a fake out. So there's one time that didn't work, but you can see all these other times it's pretty consistent. So what I'm looking for is we're kind of extended. Let's see. This candle made a high. We closed below that, the low of that high bar. So let's see if we can get a pullback to this area. Maybe this high right around this area and retest that. So that's kind of bigger picture idea. Look at the weekly time frame. That's not the best looking candle, right? Shooting star type. Then we go to the lower time frames, and you can see here, you can argue that it's a bull flag. But at the same time, we've got squeeze, momentum pushing lower, and it's just looking like we're probably going to break down from here. But anything can happen, right? So there's just a few different time frames and a few different concepts. So there's the daily time frame that's giving me that sell signal. And then you go to lower time frames like 30-minute, 1 hour. You can see that clear downtrend that we talked about. We failed to make, so we made a high, failed to make a higher high here. So we made a lower high, broke that low. And then from there, I've been downtrending. Now let's see if we break this level here, because then that could present us with a pretty nice flush. So that's there. Check the other charts here. So ES, we're kind of testing that pre-market low. So for NQ, we have already broke that level that I'm talking about on here. This is just showing extended hours, so it may be easier to see. So there's that level. You can see that we were talking about on QQQ. But if we look at the extended hours trading, you can see we broke that level, and now we're testing pre-market lows of Friday. So that level has already been broken. And then we come down, and we're probably going to see if, I wouldn't be surprised if we got a test of 17,400. Okay, so that's the analysis on the S&P and NASDAQ. ES chart, you can still see just as clearly. Well, what I need to do here is drawing tools. There we go. You can see here, got that same range. Same thing, it just shows the overnight action. So there's our range, right? We're heading to the bottom of this range. We break that, it could get ugly. But as of right now, SPY or ES has not given us a sell signal. So that's that low. And then this candle actually made the high. So why does it look different? Maybe it doesn't. Okay, so we need to be paying attention to if we break Friday's low. So let's keep a close eye on that. So this will be something that I will kind of be watching pretty extensively into tomorrow. in the next few days. If we break this low, close below it on the daily time frame. Okay. And that would kind of give us also confirmation of this range break here. Go to some sectors and review those. If you guys have stocks you want me to look at, throw them in the chat and I can cover those. Okay, so you're saying you think Nvidia is going to go down? Give me a little more explanation on that. Kind of like why you think that, because the chart's pretty bullish itself. Okay. Feeling. That's not how you want to trade. Let's see. Okay, so it's not the best looking chart. We'll go to the Mag 7. I see a lot of people asking for Tesla. Okay, so Apple, I see Apple on the list. I'll just cover this one because it's up here. Kind of similar story, right? So now Apple has been rejecting this same resistance for quite some time here. So you can see that. And we've came up to this resistance a few times. We've put in a double top. What's interesting is, will this be a lower high? Now, we have earnings coming up, so I wouldn't really do anything with this one, but this is a sell signal as well. So this candle made a high, broke that lower high, and you can see we had a sell off on Friday, about $2. So we did sell off. Wouldn't be surprised if we went and filled this gap before the earnings because it's not far away. But at the same time, I just wouldn't play this because of earnings. My thought process is that there's really two reasons that we would have this run up like this before earnings. One, because they're going to have a blowout earnings report and people wanted to get in before it goes and breaks 200, or because what is the other reason? Because they wanted to get it at cheaper prices before it drops, or the shorts wanted to get in cheaper prices before it drops. I would err more towards the idea that um, we have a nice move upside, but at the same time, the Apple always has pretty, like, their reactions are pretty boring. Their earnings reports are pretty boring, like in terms of how the market reacts. We can go look at that. I mean, you can see here, this was as a result of the rest of the market rallying. So that isn't really one. This earnings had a pretty good reaction. Sold off pretty hard. Not a good reaction, but a pretty hard sell off. Okay, this one traded sideways after, gapped up and traded sideways. This one gapped up and traded sideways. This one gapped up and then traded sideways, then lower. This one gapped up and traded sideways and then kept going. So Apple's usually pretty good about keeping it within this expected move. So we gapped up, traded sideways. So it looks like a pretty consistent pattern of Apple as earnings, they gap up and then kind of trade sideways. That's seeming to be the theme. Yep, here you go. Gap up, trade sideways. This one, a gap down, but then traded sideways. That one gapped up and then sold off same day. So I don't know. I would just wait till after earnings to touch this one, but it looks like there's a pretty common theme of gapping up and then trading sideways after Apple earnings. So Tesla. The only thing I can do with this one is be interested in shorting it, just because it's like, why would I try to buy this? It's been going straight down. Why would I try to buy it? You know, just plain and simple. Been going straight down. So naturally, you just, it's probably going to continue that until you have a reversal, which, like we were talking about, the candle closes. You can kind of see here. Here's an example of candle that made a low, and then it tried to reverse this day. You can see here, and sellers pushed it way back down, made a new low, and then continued, couldn't break that high, and then sold off. So it's like, it kind of makes it pretty simple when you look at it from that perspective. Uh, this might be an example of a fake out right here. Yep, candle close above, and then we got a candle close back below, and then continue to sell off from there. But you also have to trade it within the means of the trend, right? And this one has had pretty much just a straight downtrend. I mean, trend line is definitely not clean by any means, but it's, you can see here, run up. So maybe the next thing we see is, see if we can measure that. So maybe something like this. See if this move was, oh, see if it was any bit similar to that one. Pretty close. So, I mean, purely based off of symmetry, you could see a bounce there and back up to right around there where it's been bouncing, but that is a highly uh, speculative trade and very. So you can kind of see the measured move, how it's pretty similar. This run up, well, really, it was right there. So I don't know if this is making sense what I'm doing, but typically the market likes to act in pretty close symmetry with what it's done before. And you can see here, this high to the move down is almost identical. And then this bounce to here is almost identical. So, and then if you copy that again to go look at what this move might be, it looks pretty identical, right? I hope that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it keeps getting bought up, and all of these are pretty identical. Like you can see here, this had one day where it was higher than this here. This was the absolute high, and it's kind of like almost perfect, if you can see that. So, and it also coincides with 250, like right around 250. I don't know. It would be a really good risk to reward trade, though. That's for sure. Um, but I will not be playing it. I'm gonna leave my chart to look like this so I can come back and see if it actually happens. Uh, but any right now, just basic fundamental or technical analysis, it's trading lower, so I would expect it to continue lower. You can look at like the 30-minute. It's trying to make a higher low, but I think if you get another candle close below this low, that's an easy short trigger, or even a candle close below this low, that's an easy short trigger. Okay, so NVIDIA, had some people asking about that one. So you can see here, candle that made the high. We had an inside candle, and then now we have this here. We have that close. Boom. And so I wouldn't be looking to short this thing um until it gets above or below here, a candle close below here, just like we were talking about with QQQ. Now, I would potentially look to get long above this candle here. If we can get a candle close, something that's looking like, where can I find a similar example? Like this, I would look to go long, or this, really anytime it gets above that candle, because it looks like it's having a similar pattern of inside bar candle, and then so inside bar breakout, inside bar breakout, and then I can't inside bar breakout. So now we have two inside bars. I wouldn't be surprised if it continued to break. So just look for um, a reversal really, because it's playing off of inside bars over and over again. Amazon cleanup trend, earnings on Thursday. Can't do much or too much with it. Uh, Meta earnings on Thursday. Wow, everything, all three of those are on Thursday. Apple, Amazon, Meta, all on Thursday. Microsoft is on Tuesday. We've got Fed meeting on Wednesday. Um, we've got a lot going on, a whole lot going on. So let's see. Nothing really I would do with Meta. Strong uptrend. So I wouldn't be trying to do anything than be long on this. Same thing with Microsoft. Clean breakout. We're above 400 now at all-time highs. Meta is at all-time highs. That was an amazing recovery from $90 back up to 400. Wow. When was this? This was last year. So in a year's time, a little over a year's time, we've done 300% on Meta. It's very impressive. And Apple or Google at all-time highs. So the only one that's left of these big names is Amazon. Still got a good bit to go, but I mean, it's going to follow the rest of these big names. Tesla, I don't think it's time anytime soon. But I think Amazon is up next. It looks a lot like Google, and it's just waiting for that top to blow, and we'll have that huge move up. And it's already kind of acting like it's ready to melt up. And then we just look at these other names. AMD, all-time highs, very quickly. I think 200 is the next price target. Everything looks very bullish in terms of the daily time frame. Just might be time to rest. I don't see too many setups. There was one that I liked, was D-Dog. I think that this one could have a bounce higher. If we look at, like you can see here, we've had this support that's been resistance for a lot. We've got a buy trigger. So what we're seeing here is we've got this candle, hammer candle, and then we've got a close above the high low bar. We're at support. We're bouncing at support. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this one push higher into earnings on 13th. So there's plenty of time on that one. Yep. Yeah, that one looks good. So that will be on my watch list this week. I think this one could be a nice move back up to this high. Consistent, clean trend. So I think it can probably break upside here soon. All right, guys. Is there any other ones that you'd like me to look at? But because that's really all I've got. I'm paying attention to the potential short on QQQ. And then I like D-Dog for upside. MCD. Yep. Pushed up into 300 and rejected pretty hard. Uh, yeah, it's got earnings, so there's nothing really I'd want to do with this one. It just keeps rejecting off that 300 level. Um, so let's see if earnings can get us through there. But as of right now, trend is up. I'd look for a reversal. If it starts trending down, then I would change my mind on it. All right, guys. Thank you for coming. Um, I will have this uploaded and posted here soon. And I will see you for the markets tomorrow. Should be pretty crazy this week with everything that's going on. But looking forward to it. All right, guys. Have a good rest of your night.